I have a curse, and my curse is I see things, always have, I think, long before they happen. And I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to put all of this together and see it.
In this compelling discussion, Andy Schectman unveils a thought-provoking perspective on the potential shift away from the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. With a discerning eye, Schectman highlights the challenges facing the United States, including economic fragility, political uncertainties, and a growing debt crisis. He emphasizes the possibility of countries gradually diversifying away from the dollar, driven by concerns about US trustworthiness and the pursuit of mutual benefit in alternative alliances. Schectman's insights prompt viewers to reconsider the stability of the current financial landscape and the potential implications for the global economic order. With that, let's dive into the video to hear his full thesis.
Now, what is the fuse that ignites it? What is the springboard or the impetus that makes that moment where countries forsake the dollar? I don't know what it is or when it is, but I will tell you, I honestly do believe that this is the ultimate goal. And when you put it into context with an administration whose, as we've talked about before, main economic advisor, his whole thesis, Jared Bernstein, is to lose the reserve status and look at weaponizing the dollar. Look, if the reserve status was so important to us, then why the hell would we tell Saudi Arabia and the rest of the world we're going green when it is the linchpin to the dollar hegemony, the petrodollar? But we're going green, so it's all right, you guys. We're going a different direction. And the countries that they are uniting with, which represent the majority of human population, are the ones that have all of the world's oil and natural gas and rare earth metals and all of the things that you need to build an advanced society. So it just doesn't make sense. Well, I think it's fair. I mean, look at the knuckleheads in the White House right now. Between President Biden and Vice President Harris, between the two of them, they have a hard time getting 10 words together that are coherent. I get it. And there'll be a regime change one way or the other. I get it. This isn't going to be easy whatsoever. But nonetheless, it continues. And, I think it represents the lesser of two evils to a lot of these countries. Mm-hmm. And I just think that little by little by little, we will continue to see the de-dollarization. Look, we are a country that's broke. We are a country that's insolvent, where the Congressional Budget Office of the United States government said in 7 years, by 2031, every single penny in tax revenue will go just to pay the interest on the debt and mandatory entitlement spending like Social Security, which is nearly $70 trillion in the hole. A trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. We are at 130% debt to GDP, and there's no country that has ever come back from that without defaulting or hyperinflating. We are not in a position, I think, on many levels, to be able to be the dominant superpower that we are. And again, I want it to be understood that this is not what I'm rooting for. This is not something that I relish. I have 3 kids. My youngest is 16. I am frightened for the world that she's growing up in. And I would just simply say to you that, one-off country like Argentina saying we're out is replaced by 20 who say we're in. And, at some point, the legitimacy grows. If the union that they are building is one of mutual benefit and respect, yeah, I understand what you say about Xi Jinping. People say, who's going to trust China? But let me ask you this honestly, and you don't have to answer it. I'm asking all of you out there. After what we've seen over the last year or two with this current administration, do people really trust us like they used to? Do people really believe that Lady Liberty with the blindfold holding the scales of justice, do they believe that those scales are balanced the right way? That the current administration and the previous have been treated the same? Do people really look at this country with our elections being called into question, where the last time someone was taken off of the ballot was Abraham Lincoln and it resulted in a civil war? Do people really believe that the open border problems that we have, the divisiveness in this country, the fact that red and blue can't even talk anymore, do people really believe that we are trustworthy the way that we always have been?
In this next discussion, Andy Schectman delves into a thought-provoking scenario where he hints at a potential strategy to address the US's dire economic situation. He suggests that there might be a calculated plan to allow the global dumping of the dollar, leading to a crisis that prompts the introduction of a new central bank digital currency, CBDC. Schectman explores the possible motivations behind such a move, including the devaluation of the dollar, rising interest rates, and the potential collapse of various financial assets. The discussion leaves viewers contemplating the intricate dynamics that could reshape the financial landscape and the role of CBDCs in a crisis scenario.
You know, Xi Jinping has told the world that he will stop at nothing to reunite China. Okay, fine. But we are meddling in people's affairs that we shouldn't be meddling in. And it's one thing to talk about Israel. We have a promise and a pact with them. It's another thing to start meddling in the Ukraine and to sit right there and foster, you know, United or NATO memberships with countries surrounding Russia that were promised never would be. It's that we are meddling in people's affairs in terms of military. But look, I would simply say this to you, that there are too many things that are being done to make me feel otherwise. I mean, and what would the reason be, I guess, is the question you're asking. We are a country that is broke, insolvent, and how do you pay back that debt? What do? You just, you know, my mentor, Richard Russell, always used to say that, and this was 15 years ago, that the Fed is screwed and they have two choices: inflate or die, inflate or default, print or die. What about option number 3, find a villain? You incentivize these folks by weaponizing the dollar, telling Saudi Arabia and the rest of the OPEC countries, hey, we're going green. We don't need you anymore. And then you create massive divisiveness in this country. You create a situation where what it means to be an American, what inspired people, even probably like yourself when you were young, to dream of being an American is no longer maybe the vision or the thought that it once was. And you inspire this type of union that is being born. And if indeed they did make the switch where, hey, you know what? We don't like the prospects of a currency that is indebted as you are, with you know, really no prospect of ever paying that back other than inflation and inflating away the currency, and you blur the metrics by which inflation is gauged, we're going to go a different direction. And if that indeed happens and the dollar gets globally dumped because they're no longer needed to be held or stockpiled, and they're losing value as some players start dumping, and then others, and then others, and then others, and all of a sudden the dollar starts to really get crippled and lose value, and they hit our shores, creating a massive increase in the amount of dollars that hit our shores because there's way more outside the country than in, as the stockpiling of dollars to buy oil has necessitated that. The byproduct of that is spiked interest rates to the moon to compensate for that inflation, which then blows up not only stocks, bonds, and real estate and the dollar, but the banking system as well. And have no fear, Lael Brainerd is here. She's a modern monetary theorist who was at the Fed, who worked with MIT in development of the new central bank digital currency that Biden signed into executive order that ushered in FedNow, which came out a few months ago, which is Venmo or Zelle on steroids, backed by the Fed. She's a modern monetary theorist. So if you bring everyone down to their knees because everything collapses, and it was those sons of bitches who did it to us, they did it to us. How could they? And remember, where's the debt go? Who do we owe all the debt to? Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions. That $100+ trillion is owed to us. Who's buying all the bonds that the Chinese are no longer buying, that the Japanese are selling, Saudis are selling, Russia has already sold? All of these countries dumping bonds. Who's buying them all? Oh yeah, that's us. The hedge funds and the investors chasing yield. So if indeed there really was a plan to allow this to happen, the majority of the debt that we owe is to ourselves. A whole hell of a lot easier to issue, as a modern monetary theorist, a central bank digital currency to us and make us whole by signing on the dotted line and taking that CBDC, which many of the people watching this show would say, I ain't ever taken that, until your bank blows up, your 401k blows up, everything blows up, and the federal government comes on at 6 o'clock at night and says, listen, we understand what's happened. We're very sorry. We're going to rein things in this country and be more protectionist of our own interests, and we're going to issue a new central bank digital currency. If you take it, you'll be made whole.
Thank you for joining us today as we explored the intriguing insights shared in this video. We delved into the complexities of global economics, the potential challenges facing the US dollar, and the broader geopolitical landscape. We encourage you to share your thoughts on these thought-provoking perspectives in the comments below.